Hello everyone, welcome to the KZGN News. Today we're bringing you stories about the new GSA meeting yesterday, the Infrastructure Committee meeting yesterday, news, weather, sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Whitnick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. First off, we got a story that just came in that I want to read here, and it says, an alleged ISIS operative was reportedly carrying weapons and recruiting firefighters and threatened to behead President Obama. He was arrested today in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Jaleel Aziz of Harrisburg was arrested and charged with attempting to provide material support to terrorists. According to federal authorities, the 19-year-old ISIS supporter used dozens of Twitter accounts to spread terror messages and had a backpack with ammunition that suggests he might have been plotting an attack. A previous tweet attributed to Aziz included a threat to behead President Obama. Court documents said a go bag, or tactical bag, was found in Aziz's closet during a search that contained a high-capacity magazine loaded with ammunition, a modified kitchen knife, a thumb drive, a tin filled with medicine, and a full face mask similar to what ISIS wears in their attacks. ISIS, or Aziz, may have been preparing to conduct an attack. Yesterday afternoon, the startup group for the new Groundwater Sustainability Agency held another meeting. The meeting was held at the Indian Wells Valley Water District. It was a full house. Over 50 people attended, and officials from all the major players were also in attendance. Support staff provided the group guidance on the need to enter into a joint powers agreement with each other as the legal means to establish this new agency. The JPA has many legislative powers versus a MOU, which would not. All members were tasked to getting from their respective boards for that authority. All members were given sample JPAs for their review. The membership and voting weight of each member was also discussed. Due to each member representing a different impact group, weighted votes is being considered. For example, if one representative represented 10,000 households and another represented 1,000 households, should they have the same vote? Nothing is decided yet. There was also discussion on associate members, support committees, and structure. On the topic of metering wells, it was again asked whether private wells could be metered. Legal staff said the new agency would have authority to meter any well in the valley under certain circumstances. Another topic again discussed was the authority of the agency to impose fees on the residents. Legal staff said that there are two types of fees the agency would have authority to impose. First, regulatory fees. Second, supply fees. Regulatory fees would only be allowed to be imposed on users that were not basically single-family well owners. Supply fees will be imposed on all water users in the valley. Whether or not you have your own well, you can get a fee. There is still so much to be discussed, and from the start, we need to get this committee going. My only gripe is the meeting facility. It was very difficult to know just by looking at the seating just who was support staff and who were the major players that will have to make the actual decisions. And the audience area was packed. And about 1/3 of the audience had no ability to view slide presentations being shown to the group. Outside parking was full to the point where people had to park down the busy highway and cross the busy street to get into the facility. And all these people showed, and the meeting wasn't even advertised. What would have happened if all the media had been advertising the meeting? Anyway, there's adequate facilities available right here in Ridgecrest. The Ridgecrest City Hall would be a good place to hold these meetings. Finally, while no decisions were made, I commend the group for pressing on. We have no choice about this new agency. It is state law that we have to set this up. And then this group will ultimately decide on a plan to correct the overdraft problem we are having. I guarantee you, this plan will include fees that will be imposed on every person in the valley. If someone tells you that a certain group will be exempt from fees, I assure you that the agency will have the authority to impose some fees on every address in the valley. I'm just trying to make sure everyone understands we are quickly coming under another level of government with regulatory and fee authority. The next meeting is set to be on January 14th of 2016. At that meeting, they will be asked to start making decisions to the JPA agreement, and membership criteria to the board. While certain entities are on the board as established in the state legislation, they are being asked to consider allowing other members as well. Now an update to our government controlling potential terrorists. We get this report from Newsmax. The United States has revoked 122,000 visas, 9,500 over terrorism concerns since 2001. But they don't know where all those former visa holders are, according to congressional testimony on Thursday. Michelle Thorne Bond, Assistant Secretary for the Bureau of Consular Affairs, was grilled before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, where Republican Chairman Jason Chavez charged, "You don't have a clue, do you?" When asked where those people currently are, Bond admitted, "I don't know." Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Leon Rodriguez told the committee that the checks are not being made and didn't give details of when or how such checks might be made, and that comes from Fox News. If half the employers are doing it, if colleges are doing it for students, why wouldn't Homeland Security do it? Representative Stephen Lynch, a Massachusetts Democrat, asked. "We don't even look at their public stuff. That's what kills me." DHS has run programs to look at social media posts, Rodriguez said, but they have not yielded good results. There is less there that is actually of screening value than you would expect, at least in small, early samples. Some things seem more ambiguous than clear, Rodriguez said. We all continue to believe there is a potential for there to be information of screening value, particularly in high-risk environments. A $1.1 trillion government spending bill expected to pass Congress this week would require citizens of countries that participate in a visa waiver program with the United States to submit to interviews if they have visited high-risk countries such as Syria, Iraq, Iran, or Sudan since March 2011. The DHS also drew criticism from lawmakers on Thursday for not releasing a report on how many foreigners in the United States have overstayed their visas. The report says up to 500,000 of all U.S. visa holders overstay their visas each year, said DHS Chief Diplomatic Officer Alan Burson. In the past fiscal year, the department has opened 118 investigations into Syrians who overstayed their U.S. visas, he said. 11 of those investigations resulted in administrative arrests, and 18 are continuing. Now stay with us. When we come back, we'll have news about the City Infrastructure Committee meeting yesterday. Thanks for staying with us. In other city news, the City Infrastructure Committee met yesterday evening. The major item was a discussion between the city and the school district. The topic was the city's requirement for certain road construction work that needs to be done in conjunction with the building of the new Murray Middle School. The school is scheduled to break ground soon, but no date has yet been set. Anyway, the purpose of the meeting is that the school district cannot afford the approximately $500,000 in street improvements the city is requiring. They don't have the money. The school district presented the committee details of the project, focusing on their financial status to pay for it. While the school district has received millions of federal funding dollars for the project, they have to make about a 10% match. With the projects costing about $70 million, the match is about $7 million, and it's a hit to the district. There was back and forth discussion as to where possible funds could come from. The city reps agreed to have staff look into the budget and see if there is any available funds that can be used to help cover the cost of these requirements. There was some public discussion as to the criteria which the city uses to impose these costs to the builders. The committee answered that this is normal procedure. When any developer proposes a project that will affect traffic, the developer is required to pay for and construct the city-required improvements. After the construction, then the city usually has to take over the maintenance of those improvements. The city and school district agree they don't want to create another traffic circulation problem they are now dealing with on South Down Street. And both parties are committed to building this new school. School Superintendent Ernie Bell declared that some way, somehow, this school will be built. He stated that when he meets with families considering moving to Ridgecrest, usually coming in to work at the base or the hospital, the school conditions are often inquired about. He states that while we have a school education record that we all can be very proud of, the learning conditions are also very important to incoming families. So the topic ended with the parties agreeing to continue to look for funding for this project. But it looks like the school district will not have funds for these improvements, and it will ultimately fall on the city. In news about opposition to any new gun bans, a new ABC poll has supported a Wall Street Journal poll that now a majority of people oppose an assault weapon ban. A majority of Americans oppose banning assault weapons for the first time in more than 20 years, according to the new ABC poll. Most people doubt that the authorities can prevent lone wolf terrorist attacks. There is also renewed support of armed citizens that it's okay. Just 45% in this national survey favor an assault weapons ban, down 11 percentage points from an ABC poll in 2013. 53% oppose such a ban, the most on record. And get this, Americans by a 47 to 42% margin think that encouraging more people to carry guns legally is a better response to terrorism than enacting stricter gun control laws. There's lopsided agreement on another concern. Just 22% express confidence in the government's ability to prevent lone wolf terrorist attacks, with 77% skeptical about it. Personal fears about being victimized by a terrorist attack is not up. It's 42% now versus 49% in a Gallup poll last summer. But views on the government's limitations and on arming citizens relate strongly to attitudes on banning assault weapons, among roughly 3/4 of Americans who doubt the government's ability to prevent a lone wolf attack. 57% oppose banning assault weapons. The results of this survey, produced for ABC by Lander Research Associates, point to a shift away from the position favored by Barack Obama and others who responded to the recent attack in San Bernardino by calling for stricter gun control measures. Obama's overall job approval rating is the single strongest factor in views on assault weapons ban. The president's approval rating is 45%, down 6 points from October, with 51% disapproving his performance. The increase in opposition to banning assault weapons since 2013 peaks in some groups, up 18 points among strong conservatives, 17 points among higher income earners. Many groups have moved from the majority position of supporting an assault ban to now major opposition to it. In news from the Daily Independent, we get word that editor Aaron Crutchfield will be moving on. He did a farewell editorial in today's paper, but did not state as to where he is going. We'll check into this and try and get more information in the future. And a reminder, the next Democrat debate will be held Saturday evening, September 19th. It will be hosted by ABC News and held in New Hampshire. Clinton, Sanders, O'Malley will once again face off over the race to the White House. Let's hope the moderators will offer good, substantial questions for the candidates. Not wishy-washy feel-good questions that oftentimes are the high points of questions to the Democrats. Most of the questions in today's Republican debate were phrased where a person being asked the question almost certainly had to attack another candidate. But most of those leading questions did help separate the candidates' positions on the issues. So, tune in Saturday evening on ABC for this next debate. And in news from Washington, the Federal Reserve said on Wednesday that it would raise short-term interest rates for the first time since the financial crisis, a decision it described as a vote of confidence in the American economy even as much of the rest of the world struggles. The widely anticipated announcement that the Fed would raise rates to a range between 0.25% and 0.5% signals the beginning of the end for a central bank's stimulus program. Fed officials emphasized that they intended to raise rates gradually and only if economic growth continues. Short-term rates will rise by about 1 percentage point a year for the next 3 years, Fed officials predicted. Interest rates on mortgages and other kinds of loans and on savings accounts and other kinds of investments are likely to remain low for years to come. In Christmas news, many people go out to look at Christmas light displays around the city, and there are some great displays out there. We want to remind everyone that the Church of Latter-day Saints will again have their live nativity scene this year. The live display will be this weekend, December 19th and 20th. That's Saturday and Sunday. They will be performing from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. The display will be at their church at 1031 South Norma in the East Lawn area. New this year, there will be some live music performances through the evening. The live music is presented by local musicians that want to raise the performance to another level. Music will be both vocal and instrumental, focusing on standard Christmas hymns. The church feels the whole season is to focus on Jesus Christ, and that is what they'll do. So if you're going out to look at Christmas light displays this weekend, make sure and swing by this display. And one other display that I personally like to see every year is the Star on Bee Mountain. This is a display that has been on the base for years and years. It has shined over the city for many years. Myself and the entire community thank the volunteers that keep it repaired and operating, and a special thanks to the Navy for allowing the display to continue. That star is a major part of this community. Now in KZGN's continuous effort to provide news and information you've asked for, here are today's gas prices for Ridgecrest and some surrounding areas. Well, since my last report on Wednesday, gas prices again have crept down slightly. As of this morning, Ridgecrest is ranging from $2.61 to $2.99, Lancaster from $2.65 to $2.94, the LA Valley area $2.53 to $2.69, and the Bishop area $2.71 to $2.99. We have 3 stations coming in at the $2.61 amount. Tune in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for update. We at KZGN always suggest you shop locally to help our economy. Remember, when you pay sales tax out of town, you're helping those cities pave their streets instead of here. Now stay with us for weather and sports when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. And now here's our weather report.
Thank you, Tom. From the National Weather Service, an active weather pattern continues across the Pacific Northwest on Friday as a storm system brings areas of widespread snow and heavy rain near the coast. By Saturday evening, another frontal system will be approaching the region and will bring yet another round of precipitation to the region, including gusty winds. Temperatures across the nation. Carolinas at 63, Georgia at 47, Arkansas at 46, Northern Texas at 50, Arizona at 59, and Los Angeles at 67. And for us locally, tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 31, south-southwest wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Saturday, cloudy with a high near 58, southwest wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Saturday night, partly cloudy with a low around 31, southwest wind 10 to 15 miles per hour with gusts as high as 25. Sunday, sunny with a high near 55, west-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Sunday night, partly cloudy with a low around 31, west wind 5 miles per hour. And Monday, mostly sunny with a high near 58, north-northwest wind 5 miles per hour. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
And now, here's Tom Heck with sports.
And a very pleasant Friday early evening. Tom Heck, Christopher Livingston. Christopher was here yesterday and joins us again. We were talking about some of the bowl games. Well, let's talk a little bit about the lesser-known bowl games, games that don't get a lot of attention. It starts this Saturday, the New Mexico Bowl, Arizona and New Mexico. Arizona 6-6, New Mexico 7-5. New Mexico, their best season in an awful long time. The last time they were over 500 was 11 years ago. Arizona struggled this year in a very tough Pac-12 conference, but I think Christopher, Arizona should do well in that game.
Absolutely, I agree with that, especially the fact that, again, this is one of those Pac-12 versus Mountain West matchups. Generally, the Mountain West, unless you are Boise State, you're not really doing too well against a Pac-12 opponent. So I really do think Arizona is going to be a pretty easy game for them.
Okay, BYU and Utah are going to square off, but that's a good game. Both teams were 9-3 this season. That game, Utah actually number 20. Utah at one time was number 3 in the nation until they played USC. They lost to UCLA also, so that'll be a pretty interesting game. And really, that could go either way. What do you think? That game's going to be in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Bowl.
That one actually caused a lot of controversy. Las Vegas Bowl historically has been the Mountain West tie-in, but this time they decided to go for a very marquee matchup. Again, Utah, Pac-12, very strong team. Like you said, they were up there in the top 5 in the beginning of the season. I think that they'll be able to pull this one out against BYU.
Okay, in the Crampton Bowl, Ohio and Appalachian State, you may be saying, well, who really cares? I'm picking Ohio in that game for the Mid-American Conference. San Jose State makes their appearance in the Bowl round. They played Georgia State. San Jose State was 7-5. Georgia State 6-6 in the Citrus Bowl. That's a team out of your old neck of the woods, San Jose State. I mean, being a Fresno State guy.
Absolutely. I was actually there when San Jose State took down Fresno State for an undefeated season back in 2013. So a little animosity there personally toward them. But I actually do expect them to do pretty well in this bowl game. They actually have some very good depth. I saw them as freshmen a couple of years back. Now that they're upperclassmen, they're running a show.
Okay, in the Mercedes-Benz Bowl, which is in the Superdome down in Louisiana, Arkansas State, Louisiana Tech, both teams were 6-6 on the season. Probably Cook's choice in that one. And then Western Kentucky actually ended up number 25 in the nation. Will play against South Florida. Western Kentucky won 8 games this year, and I would look for Western Kentucky to probably win that game. They were playing well. South Florida had to win their last 3 games of the season to be bowl eligible. They did that. And let's go with Western Kentucky on that one. Christopher, let's switch gears real quick. NFL. And then maybe next week we'll have a whole session on the bowl games. But NFL this week we have some pretty good games that mean something. The Bucs and the Rams don't. But the Jets and the Cowboys right there, the Jets 8-5, they're in the bubble.
Absolutely, and the Jets are kind of in that position where they have a chance of making it to the playoffs. All they have to do is completely win out. Dallas, surprisingly, they're actually in the same situation because of the NFC East being, historically, at least in recent years, not very great. So it'll be a pretty even matchup in my opinion. But look to see Dallas maybe make some moves against the Jets.
The Cowboys, 4 wins all year, and they're still in the hunt with 3 weeks left. Fortune's got to be somewhat decent for that to happen. All right, the Bears and the Vikings. Vikings 8-5. They're in that wild card bubble. Atlanta and Jacksonville. Jacksonville 5-8. The good news is, though, they're in the very weak NFC South, and that means that they will be in the hunt this week. There's another game that really is significant, and that would be the game in Indianapolis against the Texans. Both teams are 6 wins, 7 losses. Now, one of those teams is going to have to back in, and only 1 game back is Jacksonville. So theoretically, Jacksonville still has to play both teams. They could very well somehow sneak into the playoffs. Kind of strange, Chris.
Absolutely, and especially Houston, given they lost against the Patriots. It was a home loss. They were not really too happy about that one. Made a little few mistakes. They were having some quarterback issues. So it'll be interesting to see how they rebound from that and how they go about trying to prevent another concussion on the field.
Okay, Carolina, the only team left undefeated, 13-0. They play the New York Hard Luck Giants. Giants 6-7, right in the hunt. As Christopher said, in that NFC East, it's up for grabs. I'm going to predict, and I could be wrong, I like Tom Coughlin, I think he's a great coach. I'm going to predict that Carolina goes down in New Jersey this weekend.
Really? Well, that's a pretty good prediction. New York has been known to be the spoiler. They've done it to the Patriots. They've done it to the Steelers, actually, when they had a bid for perfection a couple of years back. So they're known to do it. But at the same time, I'll actually disagree. I think Carolina is riding high on momentum. They're not resting any starters. They want to get that number 1 seed in the playoffs. So I'm looking for them to play hard, just like they did against Atlanta last week.
Okay, in the haves and have-nots, Tennessee will be at New England. Green Bay will be at Oakland. Now, Green Bay pretty much has made themselves known. 2 wins in a row now. They are leading the NFC Black and Blue division in the North. Denver and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 8-5. They're in the hunt still. Miami at San Diego. The poor Chargers 3-10. Or should we call them the Los Angeles Chargers, maybe?
Maybe. They've been talking about it. The talks are just heating up, warming up. Phillip Rivers, at one point he said, I don't want to be with the team if it goes to L.A., but he changed his mind. So hopefully they get something going on and get a team a little bit closer to our neck of the woods. Okay,
in the last game worth note, Arizona will be at Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia's won 3 games in a row. They're now 6-7. And again, they're in that NFC East, so they're in the hunt also. Believe it or not, Chip Kelly under all kinds of hot water there. But things have changed a little bit. They beat New England a few weeks ago, and they're playing better football. So we'll have to see. Christopher?
One more thing, actually. Just because there are quite a few Nebraska fans out here. Foster Farms Bowl, UCLA versus Nebraska. Who do you got?
We'll talk about that one next week. But I will tell you right now that Nebraska was lucky to get a bowl game, period. But I don't think UCLA will have a lot of problem with Nebraska. Right. That's my prediction anyway. Okay, that's your sports for this Friday. Have a very good weekend. Christopher Livingston, Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. Also, KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Now stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk coming up next.